$10,000. Gone, vanished. Just like that, in the blink of an eye, a small fortune disappeared into thin air. It was the most expensive mistake of my life, and trust me, it still stings to think about it. Every time I remember that day, a wave of regret washes over me, making my heart sink. This wasn't a shady investment scheme or a forgotten lottery ticket. No, it wasn't one of those too-good-to-be-true deals that you hear about on late-night infomercials or a scam email from a so-called Nigerian prince. No, this was far more embarrassing. This was about art. Yes, art. The kind that people spend years studying, the kind that evokes deep emotions and profound thoughts, the kind that apparently I had no clue about, or rather, my complete lack of understanding of it. I had always thought of myself as somewhat cultured, but this experience proved otherwise. I was completely out of my depth. Let me set the scene. It was a crisp autumn evening, the kind where the air is filled with the scent of fallen leaves and the promise of something new. My partner and I had decided to attend an art auction, a first for me. Picture a stuffy auction room, filled with people who looked like they only drank vintage champagne. The room buzzed with the hum of whispered conversations and the clinking of crystal glasses. The air was thick with the scent of expensive perfume and the weight of old money. I was there with my partner, who has a keen eye for art, and an even keener desire to redecorate our living room. They had been talking about this auction for weeks, excited about the possibility of finding the perfect piece to complete our home. The auction began, and I watched in awe as people bid thousands of dollars on pieces that to me looked like random splashes of paint. My partner, however, was in their element, confidently raising their paddle and engaging in bidding wars. Then, it happened. A piece came up that my partner had been eyeing all evening. It was an abstract painting, a swirl of colors that, according to them, represented the chaos and beauty of life. To me, it looked like a toddler had gone wild with a paintbrush. My partner nudged me, encouraging me to bid. I hesitated, but their enthusiasm was infectious. I raised my paddle, my heart pounding in my chest. The auctioneer acknowledged my bid, and the room fell silent for a moment. The bidding escalated quickly. I found myself in a fierce competition with a well-dressed gentleman across the room. Each time he raised his paddle, I followed suit, driven by a mix of adrenaline and a desire to impress my partner. Finally, the auctioneer slammed his gavel, and the room erupted in applause. I had won. I had just spent $10,000 on a painting that I didn't even understand. My partner was thrilled, but I felt a knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. We signed the papers, handed over the check, and took the painting home. It now hangs in our living room, a constant reminder of that night. My partner loves it, and I've grown to appreciate it, but the sting of that $10,000 still lingers. In the end, it wasn't just about the money. It was a lesson in humility, a reminder that sometimes we step out of our comfort zones and make mistakes. And that's okay, it's how we learn and grow. But still, $10,000. Gone. Vanished. The auctioneer, a man who could charm the birds from the trees with his words alone, was presenting a series of paintings. His voice was a melodic blend of authority and enthusiasm, captivating everyone in the room. Each word he spoke seemed to weave a spell, drawing the audience deeper into the allure of the art pieces on display. Landscapes mostly. Trees, mountains, the odd cow. The paintings were a testament to the beauty of nature, capturing serene moments that seemed to transport the viewer to another world. Each brushstroke told a story, a narrative of tranquility and timelessness. Not usually my cup of tea, but there was a certain energy in the room that was infectious. The crowd was buzzing with excitement, their eyes gleaming with anticipation. It was as if the very air was charged with the thrill of the auction, a palpable sense of eagerness that was impossible to ignore. My partner, bless their heart, had fallen head over heels for a particular painting, a rather abstract depiction of a sunset over a lake. The colors were bold and striking, a vivid explosion of orange and blue that seemed to dance across the canvas. It was a piece that demanded attention, refusing to be overlooked. Now, I'm no art critic, but to me it looked like someone had spilled a can of orange paint on a blue canvas. The abstract nature of the painting was lost on me, its chaotic swirls and splatters seeming more like an accident than a masterpiece. But art is subjective, and what I saw as a mess, my partner saw as a beautiful expression of creativity. Still, my partner loved it. Their eyes lit up with a joy that was impossible to fake, a genuine appreciation for the artwork that I couldn't help but admire. It was moments like these that reminded me why I loved them so much, their ability to find beauty in the unexpected, to see the world through a lens of wonder and delight. And when they love something, they really love something. Their passion was infectious, a fire that burned brightly and warmed everyone around them. It was a quality that drew people to them, a magnetic charm that made them the heart of any room they entered. As I watched them admire the painting, I felt a surge of affection, a deep appreciation for the person they were and the joy they brought into my life. The auction continued, the auctioneer's voice rising and falling in a rhythmic cadence that kept the audience on the edge of their seats. Bids were placed, hands shot up, and the atmosphere grew more electric with each passing moment. It was a dance of numbers and desires, a thrilling game of who would claim the next piece of art. My partner's eyes never left the painting they had fallen for. I could see the determination in their gaze, a silent vow that they would not leave without it. It was a look I knew well, one that spoke of their unwavering resolve. When they set their mind to something, there was no turning back. As the bidding for the abstract sunset began, my partner's hand shot up, their bid clear and confident. The room seemed to hold its breath, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Other bidders joined in, the price climbing higher and higher. But my partner remained undeterred, their focus unbroken. With each new bid, I could see the excitement in their eyes, a spark that grew brighter with every passing second. It was a battle of wills, a test of who wanted it more, and I knew without a doubt that my partner's love for that painting would see them through. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the auctioneer's gavel came down with a decisive thud. The painting was ours. My partner's face lit up with a radiant smile, their joy infectious. It was a moment of triumph, a victory that was as sweet as it was hard-won. As we left the auction, the painting carefully wrapped and cradled in my partner's arms, I couldn't help but feel a sense of contentment. It wasn't just about the art, it was about the experience, the shared excitement and the joy of seeing my partner so happy. In that moment, I realized that sometimes, it's not about understanding the art itself, but about appreciating the passion it can ignite in those we love. The bidding started at $1,000, then $2,000, then $5,000. I kept my hand firmly in my pocket, silently vowing not to get caught up in the frenzy. But then, in a moment of utter madness, I found myself raising my hand. $10,000 from the gentleman at the back, boomed the auctioneer. My partner gasped. The room went silent. I, on the other hand, felt a bead of sweat trickle down my forehead. The gavel came down with a resounding thud. Sold! To the gentleman with the worried look on his face. Worried? Worried didn't even begin to cover it. I was fairly certain my heart had stopped beating. $10,000 for a painting that looked like a 5-year-old could have made during arts and crafts time. My partner, initially speechless, eventually managed to stammer out, You bought it?" There was a strange mix of awe and terror in their eyes. I think I did," I replied, my voice barely a whisper. The room around us had dissolved into a cacophony of whispers and muffled laughter. The next few hours were a blur. I vaguely remember signing some paperwork, handing over my credit card, which I'm pretty sure let out a whimper, and then stumbling out of the auction house with the infamous painting under my arm. The drive home was quiet, punctuated only by my partner's nervous giggles and my own internal screams. Once back in the safety of our living room, I carefully propped the painting against the wall. It still looked like a spilled can of paint. That night, lying awake in bed, I went through a whole range of emotions. Anger, mostly at myself for being so impulsive and reckless. I couldn't believe how easily I had let my emotions take control of me. It was as if I had been possessed by some irrational force, driving me to make a decision that I knew, deep down, was not wise. The anger was intense, a burning sensation that kept me from finding any semblance of peace. Then came the regret, a whole ocean of it washing over me in relentless waves. I regretted not just the money spent but the principle of the matter. How could I have been so naive? The regret was suffocating, making it hard to breathe as I replayed the events of the auction over and over in my mind. Each replay brought a new layer of regret, a new angle from which to view my mistake. And then, a strange sense of disbelief settled in. It was almost surreal, like I was watching someone else make those choices. How on earth had I let myself get caught up in the moment like that? It felt like a bad dream, one that I couldn't wake up from. The disbelief was paralyzing, leaving me frozen in my bed, unable to move or think clearly. How on earth had I let myself get caught up in the moment like that? The more I thought about it, the more confused I became. It was as if my brain was trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces. I kept asking myself the same questions over and over, hoping for some clarity that never came. The truth is, I wasn't just bidding on a painting. I was bidding on something much more intangible, something that couldn't be measured in dollars and cents. I was bidding on a dream, a vision of happiness that I thought could be bought. It was a foolish notion, but in that moment it felt so real, so attainable. I was bidding on my partner's happiness, on their excitement, on the joy I saw in their eyes when they thought they'd lost their chance to own that piece of art. Their happiness was infectious, and I wanted to be the one to give it to them. I wanted to be the hero, the one who made their dreams come true. But in my quest to make them happy, I lost sight of reality. The joy I saw in their eyes when they thought they'd lost their chance to own that piece of art was indescribable. It was a pure, unfiltered joy that lit up their entire face. In that moment I felt like I was on top of the world, like I had done something truly remarkable. But that joy was fleeting and the reality of my actions soon set in. Was it a foolish decision? Oh, absolutely, there was no denying that. But it was also a decision made out of love, out of a desire to make someone else happy. And while it was a costly mistake, it was one that I would learn from. The gavel hitting the auction block was a harsh reminder of the finality of my decision, a sound that echoed in my mind long after the auction was over. But it was also a lesson learned, a very expensive lesson, but a lesson nonetheless. It taught me the value of thinking things through, of not letting my emotions get the best of me. It taught me that sometimes the best intentions can lead to the worst decisions. And most importantly, it taught me that true happiness can't be bought, no matter how much money you spend. As I lay there reflecting on the events of the day, I realized that this was a lesson I would carry with me for the rest of my life. A hard lesson in value, but a valuable lesson nonetheless. In the cold light of day, after the initial shock had worn off, I began to see a sliver of humor in the whole situation. Yes, I'd made a colossal mistake, but I'd also made my partner incredibly happy. And that, I realized, counted for something. We hung the painting in the living room where it became a constant source of amusement for guests. Interesting color choices, they'd say diplomatically. Very abstract. Over time, I even grew somewhat fond of the painting. It became a symbol of my own impulsiveness, a constant reminder to think before I act, especially when large sums of money are involved. And the best part? My partner, bless their soul, never let me forget it. To this day, they still tease me mercilessly about my expensive taste in art. So, there you have it. The story of how I lost $10,000 on a painting that looked like a spilled can of paint. It was a mistake, a blunder, a moment of utter madness. But it also taught me a valuable lesson about love, art, and the importance of setting a budget before attending an auction. Subscribe for more tales of my misadventures. Trust me, this is just the tip of the iceberg.